He's gonna have to fight! Bang! Pressure's coming! Dumped! Hogtied! When you've given everything, what will the record books say about you, Matthew?
Hey, welcome back for Season 2, Episode 49 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Last week, we had to start by anointing the Seahawks defense, MVP running back Kenneth Walker, and Sam Darnold as the top contributors to their dominant Super Bowl win over the Patriots. Then, I never thought we'd see the day that the Detroit Tigers actually made the reunion happen with Justin Verlander, but he's going to give it a go with them at 43 years old. And we wrapped up with a personal update about a recurring podcast guest spot I'm going to have, where I give updates on the Arena Soccer League that I work for. And this week, let's kick it off with the art of the tank and why it's seemingly about to get a whole lot tougher. So what do we mean when we say tank? We're not talking about home runs. We're not talking about Shermans or Panzers. I'm talking about rather intentionally not fielding a competitive team within a league, losing games to a degree that it becomes a little suspicious. Whether it's for that all-important draft position or any other kinds of league rules that benefit poorly performing teams, there are murmurings towards the end of every season that some dirty, rotten cheater couldn't possibly be this bad by accident, and they must be throwing games. Many would say that the NBA is the very worst offender of all, and I would say so too, but that would be echoey and schlocky, and we don't do that around here, do we? Self-awareness is a curse. Nonetheless, the association is going to be the first American sports league to try to address the issue of tanking through set-in-stone rules. It's always been frowned upon in the way that, let's say, stealing someone's signals is frowned upon, but there have never been any teeth or rules on the books to do something about it. Let's briefly touch on a few modern examples. One of the more famous tanks in the NFL, as much as it's tough to concretely prove that anyone's doing it, was the Colts in their Suck for Luck campaign. Andrew Luck was arguably the most pro-ready quarterback of all time coming out of Stanford in 2012. He was going to be the number one pick in the draft no matter who else declared. This was more of a fan-driven campaign than a real strategy on the field, but that 2011 Colts team knew that their prize for going 2-14 would be Luck. And while we all know how injuries derailed his career pretty early, he was special for the relatively brief time he had in the league. Their primary quarterback for that 2011 season was Curtis Painter of all people, because Peyton Manning missed the whole year with his first big neck surgery. With Luck immediately becoming the starter after being the number one pick next year, Indy would put together 3 straight 11-win seasons and completely pull themselves out of those dark times, even after letting Peyton walk and head to the Broncos. Other recent tanks. What would you call what the White Sox have been doing the last couple of years? They set the record for the most losses in a season in MLB history in 2024, and they felt dramatically improved in 2025 when they finished 60-102. They continue to shed payroll, and they're ranked 26th in money committed for the coming season. Last year's Rockies are another questionable case. Even though the draft, and especially draft position in the MLB, is not as influential as in other leagues, it's a tad bizarre how traumatically bad the Rockies were in 2025, with a 43-119 record. They went and they were pushing for most of the year that all-time futility mark that the White Sox had just set, but they did come up a little bit shy. They're ranked 25th in payroll committed for this year at $105 million. It's strange that 2 of the worst single seasons in MLB history would come so close to one another, and when compared to the Dodgers' total bill for this year, including luxury tax of over $500 million, it's kind of incriminating. And of course, NBA teams are accused of tanking all the time. They are the worst offenders, like I say, by most accounts. You watch a 9-figure superstar sit on the bench in street clothes half the season or more, supposedly on the injury report but not appearing particularly injured, while his team gets whooped on every night. Then you start to think to yourself, man, there has got to be something going on. That should all change next year if what Commissioner Adam Silver had to say on Thursday to all the league owners is true. Like I always say about Silver, the man does look like a supervillain, but he continues to grow on me every single year with what he's actually doing. I think he very rarely misses with big solutions to the big problems. Here are a few of the proposals on the table from Thursday's owners' meetings, plus a competition committee meeting from earlier this year that will supposedly be going into effect next year, but we'll see. draft lottery odds freeze at the trade deadline, or at some later date beyond that, still to be chosen. I can't even lie, I still don't even understand the lottery system enough to know if this would be effective. The fact that it comes down to literal ping pong balls seems like something we're going to find pretty archaic very soon. Teams may also be banned from picking in the top 4 the year after making the conference finals. See, this really gets me. I understand trying to get rid of the have-nots in the league, but why are you also trying to get rid of the haves? I don't think you should ever punish a recently successful team that's played by the rules and just fallen on some hard times afterward. Lottery odds could also be adjusted and doled out based on a team's record in a 2-year span. This isn't terrible, but there are other valid reasons that a team could be awful for more than 2 years in a row besides tanking. And my personal favorite, the one that might have some real teeth, is not allowing a team to pick in the top 4 in the draft in consecutive years, period. That's one that isn't really up for interpretation. That's super self-explanatory. I would guess if you did choose the ping pong ball of a then ineligible team who had recently picked in the top 4, then you just keep re-rolling until you get someone else. And I gotta say, that could make for some great TV. Could you imagine the look of horror on Silver's face as he pulls the quote-unquote Brooklyn Nets 8 times in a row on national TV? The biggest reason why Silver had to send this strong message seems to be the fines that the Jazz and the Pacers got this last week. He always meets with the owners at the All-Star break, which was this past weekend, but he had more to talk about this time around. $500,000 came out of the Jazz owners' pockets this weekend for resting healthy players. Yes, I know that's not even a drop in the bucket in NBA money, but it is a message. Silver has probably presided over more league change than anyone since Larry O'Brien, and that's the guy the finals trophy is named after. O'Brien was commissioner when the three-point line was instituted. Like, hello. So, anyway, this is not to be taken lightly. So many things that have changed. The 65-game requirement for league awards, that's still kind of meh. The jury's still out on it, and it is going to bar stars like LeBron and Giannis from All-NBA consideration this year. Those are the longest active streaks in the league, with LeBron at 21 years straight and Giannis at 9. And 2 more missed games from Nikola Jokic, who has had a very legitimate knee injury, by the way, would put him out of the running after 3 MVP wins in the last 5 years. There's the in-season tournament, or now the NBA Cup. There's other load management rules, embracing sports betting partnerships, and then cracking down on the illegal stuff with the Jonte Porters of the world. I don't think anyone could ever see a more interesting term as a commissioner until maybe the NFL just goes to a 2-hand touch. Whether you think the changes have been good or not, Adam Silver is a doer and not a talker. So, back to tanking and pure draft position concerns. One has to lean toward calling the NBA draft the most influential of all drafts in sports, because there are only 2 rounds and 60 picks. You can find so many gems in the very late rounds in other places, in other sports. I think MLB is the most obvious. But boy, pedigree counts for something in the basketball world. If you want to tank, or you're in an impossible position as a team where you just can't really win with who you have, then you'll be affected by the rules just the same way and be doomed to mediocrity. All of that said, none of this means much until it's officially on the table, has gone to a vote, and passed. Because who's to say that it will pass, or that it is even ready to be rolled out for the coming year? My best guess is the solution is going to take a few years of tweaking, and next year is only going to be the start. Probably a lot of things that they want to see eventually rolled out at the league level won't be taking place just yet. Specifically because Silver said that he believes tanking is worse this year than ever before. That just means that the problem runs deeper. This whole tanking topic is definitely going to be the subject of the poll for this week's episode. As always, I will link the ESPN article for you on the story, and hopefully you find it a good read. Next up is a very funny realization that I've had. I rarely talk about broadcasting on the show, even though I have some awfully strong opinions on it. I want to take a moment to tell you about one of the most impressive feats in the recent history of broadcasting, and why one guy is endearing himself to me more every single day during the Olympics. What if I told you it was possible to cover a major American sports championship one evening, then fly halfway across the globe for a worldwide event and make it there the same day? That's what the incomparable Mike Tirico did after Super Bowl Sunday, February 8th. right from his first ever Super Bowl doing play-by-play in Santa Clara to Milan for the opening night of the 2026 Winter Olympics. I really want to know what the flight schedule looked like and what kind of army it took behind the scenes to get him out of the building after the game. That's, the first step. I'm sure they fly him on a private plane, but where's the airfield that he had to go to? Did he have time to eat, time to take a shower? Did he sleep at any point before he got there, or can he just put on this studio presence regardless? This isn't even so impressive just because Mike Tirico is good, right? He is incredibly good too, but that's not why he's so revered. It's that he is so insanely, uniquely dedicated, and he never misses a beat with one of the most diverse resumes in the history of the job. It kind of surprised me when I learned that he had never called the Super Bowl before, and I think that's probably because I remembered him being in the studio and hosting for it before. And then I heard, well, Joe Buck has called 6 of them. Talk about your meritocracy. I have to preface that I am chock full of personal bias here. There's the fact that I've recently gotten my diploma for my grad program at Syracuse, where Tirico is a legend and a board member. He went to my Newhouse School of Communications. I've seen a classroom with him and his wife Debbie's name on it. I had a professor in my grad program who told me she was pretty good friends with him, fun fact, and so I tried to have her get me a meeting with him, but of course he is one of the most in-demand people, literally in the world, as if Super Bowl weekend didn't prove that, so it didn't work out. There's the fact that if you ask me, all of the best broadcasters in the world go to Syracuse. There's the sheer variety or range of things that he can cover equally well, which has always kind of been my goal. You guys know I get into the niches, and I really never say no to an assignment. There's the way that his normal play-by-play and his studio presence are harmonious. And it doesn't feel like a different person because he is just so level-headed. You add it all up, and I think his Olympic coverage this year has locked down Mike Tirico's spot on my Mount Rushmore of sports voices. For what it's worth, I think the others that I would put on that Mount Rushmore, if I did have to pick, would be Gus Johnson, Kevin Harlan, and Ian Eagle, I think, in no particular order. And I gotta say, if Jason Benetti continues to get as many national assignments as he has recently and stays doing such awesome work with the Detroit Tigers, then I think he might find his way on there over somebody else. I think he is the most unique voice with the most unique sayings literally ever. Somebody's going to fight me on that. Somebody's going to have an old head answer on it, but man, Benetti does things so differently, and I love it. To finish out this week, let's talk about the oldest NFL stadium that may be going the way of the dodo and a massive relocation that might be closer than we think. This is the second time I brought this up on the show. I've been going back through old scripts and research notes, and I truly cannot find when the first time was. But nonetheless, the Chicago Bears are preparing to finally leave the oldest stadium in the NFL, Soldier Field, for a home in Northwest Indiana. It blows my mind a little to learn that the site they're looking at in Hammond, Indiana, is like half an hour from Soldier Field. Anyway, the Indiana Ways and Means Committee passed a bill unanimously on this Thursday that does a number of things. Chiefly among them, it creates the Northwest Indiana Stadium Authority with the power to do things like bonds for funding and just buy up land and finance the whole stadium. Gotta tell you, as this also happened on Thursday, it was a very eventful Thursday, and that always makes for some recording difficulties when I have to push the recordings back to, well, sometimes Friday afternoon shortly before the episode drops, but here we are. There are going to be hang-ups when the Bears do relocate, obviously. Their current lease of Soldier Field runs through 2033, and I have no idea what would have to happen for them to break that and move before then. I will say that I am sure it costs money. There are a number of other proposed sites for new stadiums that have been on the table for much longer, like Arlington Heights in the Chicago suburbs. The team bought a big parcel there back in 2023. There's also moving back to Wrigley Field, where they played for the first 50 years or so of the franchise. That last one is mostly a joke, but hey, for what it's worth, their home field advantage while they were playing there was legendary. If the Hammond, Indiana site were to be the one that the team settles on, the Bears would be on the hook for about $2 billion in construction costs. The whole franchise is probably worth around $8 billion right now, based on Forbes' most valuable franchise rankings from last year. That is a huge chunk of change. But domes, especially retractable domes, are an investment, and they open up a ton of possibilities to host other events outside of football season. Year-round use is just kind of the hack for profitability. I doubt we'll ever get to see 100% of teams playing in domes in the NFL, but it's creeping closer. Surely Lambeau is going to be the last holdout, right? As the longest one continuously in use by one team. I'm surprised that more people aren't fighting to keep Soldier Field and just renovate it again, considering all the history of it, but that's the reality. The capacity there is dead last in the league, and not even 3/4 of what the biggest stadium, MetLife, can hold. Think of that. 4 Jets fans or Giants fans can suffer every week to every 3 Bears fans. I've been by Soldier Field. I don't think I've been inside it, but I hear the logistics of it can be brutal. Concession lines are too long, the suites are lackluster, and Chicago taxpayers are still paying for some of the renovations that happened something like 20 years ago. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to go and renovate it again and just continue to kick the can down the road. Looks like it might be time to make a change for the benefit of everyone, no matter the cost. And that's one more week down. This is awesome, folks. I gotta say, the spot that we're in right now. Last week we hit 100 episodes overall. Now 3 more episodes until we hit the 2-year mark. If anyone was around at the time this little side project started and caught the very first episode, thank you very much. I'm sure it was pretty chalked. I'm tempted to say that I had no intro or outro on it. It probably wasn't very clear that I was a broadcaster or what my shtick was going to be as a variety sports talk guy. And at that point, I'm probably only getting family and friends. I can remember that I did an NFL offseason episode, and I think one of the focuses was Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. I gotta say, I'm still convinced that he is going to find a starting job this year at 38 years old, but it's also crazy that we're still talking about this Falcons saga 2 years later. They haven't even cut him yet. Really, though, I appreciate every one of you, and it has been an awesome time ever since here on the show. As always, what do we say when we wrap these episodes up? Thank you for coming back week after week, or if you are relatively new here, we are happy to have you. Either way, check out all my socials, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, at The Voice of Tanner, X, just Voice of Tanner, and YouTube, the whole thing spelled out with spaces. And I'll take one more moment to remind you, as we come up on these milestones, about all the places you can find the show. Yes, I appreciate my Spotify enjoyers, but we are also found on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Same name across all 3, thanks to the magic of the RSS feed. No matter where and when you're listening, you're a real one. Leave a like, comment, and share. Catch you next week. This has been Season 2, Episode 49 of White Noise Sports with Tanner White. Thanks for joining me.
He's gonna have to fight! Bang! Pressure's coming! Dumped! Hogtied! When you've given everything, what will the record books say about you?